A girl sat in a tree lost in thought. Then she heard something below. She looked down, and found a nest of abandoned goose eggs. She reached for them, then heard tiny chirps from inside. The nearby woods had just been cleared. The geese had nowhere to live. She ran home right away. She found an old backpack, and picked up every egg one by one. Soon the bag was full. Back home, she put the eggs in a drawer, wrapped them in clothes to keep them warm, then secretly grabbed a light bulb, and placed it inside the drawer. She made a simple incubator. The next day at school, she could not stop thinking about the eggs. She could not focus in class. At that moment, one little gosling was breaking out of its shell. It slowly pushed its way out, and finally entered the world. After school, she wanted to see them right away, but she waited until night, so no one would notice. Then she quietly went to the barn. She opened the drawer. Many goslings had already hatched. They kept opening their mouths for food. Not long after, her dad realized she was missing. He grabbed a flashlight and went looking. He found her in the barn. She was fast asleep, surrounded by baby geese. He did not wake her. He quietly covered her with a blanket. The next day, the house was covered with bird droppings. Her dad had no idea what to do, so he called a wildlife officer. The officer said the geese would fly south in the fall. Without their parents, they could easily lose their way. They might hit power lines, or get hit by cars. For now, they only needed grain and grass to grow up healthy. The officer also said baby geese bonded with the first person they saw as their mother. So, these goslings already saw her as their mom. From then on, she stayed with them every day. Wherever she went, they followed. They ran across the fields together, and through the flowers. A few days later, the wildlife officer came back. He said pet geese had to have their wings clipped. Then he grabbed one of the goslings, and got ready to do it. She froze. Her dad kicked him out, and told him not to come back. But the officer would not give up. He said 2 months later, if their wings were not clipped, he would take all the geese away. Her dad ignored him. He only worried about his daughter. After that, she locked herself in the bathroom with the geese. No matter what her dad said, she would not open the door. That night, she slept in the bathtub, just to stay with them. Her dad felt helpless. He never expected his 13-year-old daughter to be so stubborn. The truth was, she had survived a terrible crash not long ago. That day, she was riding with her mom. Just before they arrived, her mom answered a phone call. A big truck came toward them. Her mom could not avoid it. The car slammed into the guardrail, and rolled over several times, before finally stopping. When she woke up, she had already been in the hospital for a week. She saw her dad, who she had not seen in years, sitting beside her. Later she learned her mom had died. A month later, she moved in with her dad. It was the house where she grew up. The moment she walked in, she froze. The living room was full of sculptures. Stuff was piled everywhere. Even the bedrooms were packed. The whole house was a mess. The next morning, noise outside woke her up. She opened the curtains, and saw her dad carrying a strange aircraft. It was a glider, with no engine. He pushed it to the top of a hill, picked the right direction, and ran off the edge. She thought he would crash, but the glider lifted into the air. Soon it was flying high. After one lap, he came in to land, ran across the ground, and fell. She thought he was hurt, but he got right back up. She quietly went back inside. Her dad did not know how to connect with her, so he buried himself in work. She wandered around every day. Her dad's girlfriend was kind to her, but she still missed her mom. Whenever she felt sad, she climbed somewhere high, and sat there alone. One morning, the machine started again. Bulldozers were tearing down the forest. Birds flew away everywhere. Her dad rushed over, trying to stop them, but no one listened. Later he told her, a developer wanted the land. He opposed the project, because the animals would lose their home. She did not really care. She sat alone on a fallen tree. Then, she found the goose eggs. She brought them home. One gosling after another hatched. She took care of them every day. When the officer wanted to clip their wings, she completely broke down. She stayed with them, and trusted no one. As time passed, the goslings grew bigger. She stayed by their side every day. Her dad noticed. They followed her everywhere. He knew geese belonged in the sky. One day they had to migrate. Keeping them at home forever was impossible. Then, he came up with an idea. If the geese followed her, they could also follow an airplane. He could lead them south for the winter. Then next spring, they could fly home on their own. She knew it had to happen, so she agreed. From that day on, father and daughter trained the geese together. At first, the geese ignored him. They would not even look at him. But little by little, they started following him. The first step worked. Once the geese grew their wings, training moved to the next stage. Her dad took off in the glider, but the geese stayed on the ground. They refused to fly. She realized they depended on her too much, so she hid. But they quickly found her. Training failed again. Her dad felt disappointed. Then, she secretly flew the plane. The geese followed her right away, but she did not know how to fly. She quickly lost control. The plane crashed. Her dad ran over. Luckily she was not hurt. She was only shaken up. After that, her dad came up with another plan. He decided to build a smaller plane. She would fly in front, and he would fly behind. The geese would follow her. She agreed right away. To make it safer, her dad sold his most valuable collection. He used the money to build a lighter plane. Every day, he taught her how to take off and land. She learned fast. Before long, she could fly by herself. The first time she took off, the geese in the cage got excited. They opened the cage, one after another. They flew out, and stayed right behind her. Both planes led the whole flock across the sky. The first test flight was a success. Next, they searched for a winter home. Later, they found a bird expert. Even though he doubted the idea, he helped them find a wetland. It was perfect for the geese, but a developer wanted that land too. If no migrating birds arrived in time, the wetland would be destroyed. To make the deadline, they had to leave right away. The route was already planned. They had to fly hundreds of miles, across lakes and mountains. The geese had never flown that far, so before leaving, she trained them every day, flying farther each time. Finally, the day before departure arrived, but that night, the wildlife officer showed up. He captured every goose, and locked them in cages. To leave on time, they decided to rescue them. Early the next morning, she and her dad waited in their planes. Their friends distracted the guards. Someone else released the geese, and guided them to the lake. She flew over, right on schedule, and the geese took off with her. They flew over villages, across lakes, until night fell. The geese were exhausted. The planes were almost out of fuel. Then, they spotted an Air Force base. Radar picked them up. The base went on alert. Fighter jets were ready, but her dad landed first. As soon as he touched down, soldiers surrounded him. Later, the commander learned the truth. Instead of stopping them, he took a photo with everyone. The next day, they were all over the news. When they left, the people at the base came to see them off. Father and daughter took off again, leading the geese farther south. They flew over fields, small towns, and forests. Then gunshots echoed nearby. The geese scattered. Hunters were shooting. To protect the flock, she flew straight toward the hunters. They quickly backed away. The geese landed safely on the lake. Father and daughter parked the planes nearby, and got ready to keep going. On the way, they met an old man. He recognized her, and invited them to dinner. They were even on TV. Early the next morning, they took off again with the geese. More and more people followed their journey. Reporters gathered at the finish line, waiting for them. Along the way, they flew over cities, tall buildings. People stopped, and looked up. Then, her dad's plane suddenly broke down. It dropped from the sky. She landed right away, and rushed over. His shoulder was hurt. He could not keep flying. She had to finish the trip alone. If she failed, the wetland would be lost. Her dad encouraged her, and told her not to be afraid. She took off again, leading the geese forward. People along the way pointed her in the right direction. Meanwhile, the developer was ready to begin. Bulldozers rolled forward. Many conservation supporters stood in the way. At the very last moment, she arrived with the geese. Everyone cheered. People cleared a place for her to land. The geese flew into the wetland. One by one, they landed on the water. They had finally found a new home. The crowd kept cheering. She became the center of attention. This journey was more than a migration. It brought a father and daughter back together. After her dad got hurt, she finally learned how to face the future on her own. And her dad knew his little girl had truly grown up. The geese returned to the sky, where they belonged. The wetland was saved. After a long journey, everything ended the best way possible. Father and daughter completed the impossible, and inspired more people to care about nature and the future of migrating birds. The next spring, the geese really came back. They returned to the place they knew, and back to them. In the end, the sky was still wide open. The geese flew free. Father and daughter stood in the distance, watching them together. Everything was finally the way it should be.